Welcome to the PNRShow, Season 1, Episode 18.
I'd rather have lager than light. I'll take a strong stout over stride. I prefer to confer with a half pint of ale than live a long life till my private parts fail. For life without liquor is to no avail. So bring me lager for life. I'd rather have lager than light.
Once around the block because you only live twice, and knock 3 times on the ceiling because you love me. It's the Pine and No Return Show. Starring that gregarious Goliath of greatness and the jovial, jubilant Jupiter of jocularity, Gary Hagenbark and Jeremy Brooks. And co-starring the kitschy kooky comedy killer and the coward of the county, Keith Seifert. And featuring Rob Dingan. Tonight, we head back on down to the friendly confines of the Southern Star Brewery in Texas for some fine belt pale ale. Plus, a tribute to an alien legend, our pick segments, and the Robo-Apocalypse. Can I get a what? No. Then let's start with what's what and the Pint of No Return Show. Good evening, guys.
Hello.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
Hi, everyone.
I need you to come when I throw it to you. I need you to come with some kind of excitement, even
right,
if the
take two.
intro was bad.
No, see, the
You just
problem is
pretend it was good.
the intro was so good it's like for another show, so I just start watching.
Yeah.
But even you said something like, "Hey, how are you doing, Rob? All right, let's get this show on the road."
How's it going, Rob?
All right, let's try it
Big
again.
intro.
Can I get a what? No. Then let's what with the Pint of No Return Show. Hey guys.
Hey,
Hey,
Rob, we had a
Rob.
great show tonight. How's that?
That's what I'm talking
That's
about.
better.
That is what I'm
Arsenio
talking
Hall from the 80s for you.
about. 90s, but that's okay.
It's all the past.
It's all good, Keith.
Oh, it's a long time ago. Back when I had hair.
So we have had some huge business happening with us following our beer salt episode last week. We got up to well over 50 views on YouTube. Folks, this is how an empire is built. Just one listener at a time, year by year. You will have something at the end of centuries. So,
And it will be amazing.
We take the long view.
we do really want to thank the guys from Brew Salt. Excuse me, I almost said Beer Salt. Brew Salt for coming on the show last week. Patrick was a lot of fun. We had a great time doing it, and they had some really nice things to say about us on their website and on Twitter. And we reciprocated, of course, in kind because we had a great time with them. And hopefully, we'll have them back on again.
It's nice to hear they had nice things to say about us. That's not usual. That's the opposite of the. So that's good. Good to hear.
Yeah. And of course, we want to thank the folks at Robo Boogie for their lovely logo that they made for us. That someday will actually take place in a physical form. And Poxy Boggards.
Only if they'll send us the damn files.
All right. Proprietary.
Apparently.
Poxy Boggards. Stu Venable with the Poxy Boggards, the great, awesome Renaissance body band. You can find their stuff at iTunes or at poxyboggards.com. That's POXYBOGGARDS. Well, we took a break from the brew salt, with the brew salt from our Texas brews, but we're going to jump right back into it with our second beer from the Southern Star folks. And I picked this one out to please the other three. We got a little Pine Belt Pale Ale. And this one comes in a nice tall 16-ounce can.
It's nice and cold.
And what we got here are, we got 2-row choice British crystal malts, select hops, and deep well groundwater from the Evangeline Aquifer. And once again, the Southern Star folks do not pasteurize their brew. That is, so they say, to ensure maximum freshness. And guys, it's a pale ale, so I'm leaving it to you.
All right.
All right. Let's do
Sounds
it.
good. It's got a California ale yeast. So that's interesting from a Texas beer.
little
Cracking it.
higher alcohol with 6.
Yeah,
And
6.3. That's pretty good.
IBUs, so that should have a nice.
Yeah, this
Nice
ain't
little
no
bitter
this
kick
ain't
to
no
it.
Utah.
Oh.
This ain't no Utah pale ale.
It's got a nose.
It
That
does.
smells great.
Ooh, that
Man, that smells
grapefruity
good.
hoppy thing. Oh, that we just really
Pine,
despise.
the name definitely comes through in the aroma.
Yeah, it smells like a pine forest beat up a grapefruit forest.
Wow. Look at that head.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Piney
I'm
Woods
curious
is a big forest down here, and no doubt they took their name from that. Maiden today. All right, so it's got the not so much the florally hops as it has the really strong citrusy grapefruity hops.
Yeah.
Whew.
All right.
I have a Mexican beer ready to stand in because I'm pretty sure I'll get 1 or 2 sips down.
Oh, come on. It's not like it's a double IPA.
No, it's just a pale
It's a
ale.
regular pale ale. I mean, it should taste reminiscent of maybe a Bass ale or something.
Yeah. It's got a nice color, nice coppery body to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Almost golden.
Boys. Frost.
Gonna wipe my mustache after that.
Yeah. Someone else go first. I always go first.
I'll do it. So from the nose, I expected a more bitter, hoppy flavor, but it's pretty balanced beer. It's definitely not an IPA, and it's not pretending to be. It's not supposed to be. Very solid pale. It reminds me a little bit of Dale's, a little bit of a Sierra Nevada, which is a pretty classic pale ale. Definitely has that the West Coast pale with the amount of hops in it. I was looking at the hops they use, the Horizon. It seems like it's a pretty bitter hop. It has a lot of alpha acids in it, so that is coming through, although not quite as bitter as I expected based on the aroma. Nicely balanced, good body. I like it a lot. I'll give it an 8.
I'm finding it to be more piney in taste, and it was a little more citrusy in nose. But yeah, not too much on either side. It's pretty. It's not trying to be too aggressive, jump into that IPA category. It's just well hopped pale ale. Tastes pretty good. It's an interesting texture. It's almost creamy.
Yeah.
But I like it. It's good.
Give it
What scale do we use again?
10.
10.
Right. I'm gonna say then
people.
an 8 will be a.
Welcome to episode 18.
You've been here before, right?
I think so. It's nice for you guys to have me back, though.
I'm going to just fall right in line there with these guys. It's a solid pale ale. It's got nice malt characteristics coming through. It doesn't, I mean, to me, the hops are all in the nose in terms of flavor, and then there's some bitterness when you actually drink it. But they definitely, I don't know, to me, got the right amount of hops for a standard pale ale. Didn't go too far with it. It's a substantial beer. It's got a nice flavor profile, not overly complex. Sometimes with these, some people these days try to do too much with beers, and they get to be just kind of too much. This just kind of takes a more classic approach, but adds a little bit of punch with the hops and malts. So I like it. It's good. I think I'll give it a 7 because it's solid, and I'm glad that it's a 16-ounce can today. It's just one of those days where the more the better kind of thing. So I'm going to give it a 7 because I've had, Dale's Pale Ale is really, really good, but it's not quite there, but it's pretty close. Rob?
I'm enjoying a lovely Cerveza Saguama Caguama Light from Mexico.
Why would you do that?
Why would I? Because the Pine Belt Pale Ale sucks. That's why.
How do you do that to your hometown brewery?
Way too much of the citrusy hops, and really nothing to back it up. All you taste is hops, hops, hops.
No.
Grapefruit, grapefruit, grapefruit. And it's not good. I give this a 3.
You really don't get any of the malt characteristics coming through?
No.
Wow.
And I'm giving it a 3 because that's the standard hometown advantage in a football game. So I'll give it 3 points.
Wow. So that's a total score of 6.5. Without Rob, it would have been like 7 point something.
7.9.
Yeah. Beer Advocate, interestingly enough, gives it an 86 rating, which is pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty high.
I mean, that's pretty high for them, and it's got like 560 plus reviews on it. So it's not like some of those Utah beers that had 12 reviews from the people that worked at the brewery. So it's doing pretty good. I didn't happen to see what it was on Untappd when I checked in, but if you didn't know, Untappd's doing their American Craft Beer Week badge. So all you have to do is check into a beer. You can get that.
Sweet. On my way now.
I can do that.
I also tried a little bit of bacon brew salt in it because it said that it was good for pale ales. And I hate to tell the brew salt people this, but it did not help.
Speaking of brew salts, I had a Chainbreaker, which is a white IPA, like a Belgian-style IPA that Deschutes does in the summer. That's actually is a really, really good beer. I added some of the habanero salt to that, and that was an interesting mix. So,
I kind of liked that habanero salt with the bitter beers. That was really kind of a neat combo.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be going back to that.
Definitely. So, all right. So not an overwhelming positive on that beer, 6.5. But I don't know. If I was ever to make my way to Conroe, Texas, I might pick up a 6-pack of this.
I think if you like pale ales, you'd like this beer.
Yeah. Pale ales is your style. It's solid.
I would agree with that. If you like crap, you should try this beer. Yeah. All right. So that's it for the Southern Star Brewing Company. We've got St. Arnold's and I think Karbach yet to go. Those two breweries, which we'll try in the coming weeks. As we continue with our Texas unit.
3.5 Untapped rates this, by the way.
Yeah.
3.5 out of 5.
Okay, that's right in line with us. So.
Moving on into our pint taken segment, our topic tonight, or one of our topics, a little on the downside. H.R. Geiger, who is a designer from many, many films, including Dune, Poltergeist, among his top 2, but his most known creature and costume designs is for the Alien franchise. And he passed away, I believe it was yesterday, at I think 74. He sustained some injuries from a fall, and I guess it was pretty bad that it eventually claimed his life. So very, very sad. He's very iconic in terms of the design he created. Literally caused nightmares for a lot of people, and the Alien franchise was among the first real, true, modern sci-fi horror, and it basically led to an entire genre of films, and that just simply would not have been possible without, in some great part, to Geiger's design. So very sad to see him pass.
That movie just scared the living piss out of me when I was young. I saw it in the theater, and that, I mean, his design really made. I mean, you could have had a lot of other aliens, but he really figured that one out to make it creepy and scary and something like straight out of childhood nightmares.
And something we've never seen before.
And so nothing different. We've seen again.
Right. And something that stood the test of time. 30 some years later, that movie still looks great.
Oh yeah, we watched it last summer, and it was, it was still a scary movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And as scary as Alien was, Aliens, the second movie, also scary, but almost kind of more of an adventure film, less horror and just more pure adventure and kind of action, and still held up as a great film. Along with Geiger's work, you got to see to see more of what he created besides just the Queen and all that kind of stuff. So it was really, really cool designer, and very sad to see him pass.
Yes, toast to him and his great work.
I came kind of late to the Alien franchise. I actually didn't see the first film until I was in my late 20s, I think.
I saw it at the theater when it came out, and
Yeah.
it scared the piss out of me.
Yeah.
Well, talking about a movie that's Alien is a very slow ramp up.
Yeah.
It starts off really slow, establishes the characters, establishes the mission, kind of sets the world that they live in as kind of a postmodern future. Kind of a very dingy, grungy, not the kind of, spick and span clean starship that you'd see in like Star Trek or something like that, but a very kind of a utilitarian atmosphere, and that just kind of gave that kind of helped the alien to even be that much more scary, because there's all these little dark crevices and corners that it could hide behind or above or under.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and it was not a well lit movie. They did the dark, shadowy thing right.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. So
toast to H.R. Geiger. Thanks for your great work, and condolences to his family. Okay, next up, I think we have time to talk about the $16 house.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, Jeremy, did you put that up there?
I put that up there.
Why don't you tell us about it?
So the $16 house. This guy in Texas figured out some loopholes in the laws that allowed him to. He doesn't quite own the house, but he's living in the house, and it will be his in 3 years, because for $16 worth of paperwork, he now has squatter's rights to the house unless the bankrupt mortgage company pays off the loan. So he's
or sues him to get out.
but the company doesn't exist anymore.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
They would have to pay off the debt for him to be forced out of the house. It's kind of a unique situation in that everybody that has a claim to the house, a legal claim to the house, no longer exists. The companies are bankrupt. In order to pay off the lien, the article suggested maybe the neighbors could have a bake sale and raise the money.
Yeah.
But if he's still there in 3 years, the house is his for $16.
Who is the money owed to, though?
It must be owed to somebody else besides the mortgage company.
Yeah.
No, it could be that the person that owned it previously owed that particular mortgage company, and that particular mortgage company doesn't exist anymore.
But what usually happens when a mortgage company goes out of business, and I kind of work in this field, what usually happens is another company or investors come along and buy up that debt. I don't know what happened in this case, but usually it's assumed by another company.
Yeah, that's what you would think.
It sounded like there were a couple of layers of default on here when I read I don't understand this stuff real well, because real estate sucks.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's kind of basically not barricaded, but secured himself in the house. He's posted no trespassing signs, and if he can tough it out for 3 years without someone trying to come along and buy out that debt, the house becomes his.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Which is just hilarious.
He ain't leaving, basically.
So the original occupant walked away from it, which left it with the mortgage company, and the mortgage company folded. So if he can stay there for 3 years, it's his, unless somebody comes forward and pays off the lien. So a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
If you live in Texas.
But he lives in kind of a wealthy neighborhood, obviously, that can afford $300,000 homes in Texas, which is a lot. Those are big houses for Texas.
Yeah.
What? I thought that was like a 600 square foot house.
600 square foot house?
No, that's where
it's
we.
It's probably a 3,000 square foot house for Texas. But maybe if some of his neighbors can come together, the homeowners association can come together and raise some money, they can buy it out from under him.
Yeah, the funny thing to me was that the neighbors complained to the police and said, "Hey, you got to get this squatter out of here," and the police said that's a civil matter. So when the owner, quote owner, complains or deals with it as a civil matter, we'll take care of it. But he's not actually doing anything criminal, so they can't do anything.
Right. There's no owner to complain.
Yeah, I thought that was, to me, that was the funniest little piece of irony, is that the police kind of, they're like, well, according to the law, we really don't have any jurisdiction here, so we're going to just stay out of it.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yeah. The question I have is, does this guy, is he living in this house without power and water and all the amenities?
He has to just go out on the property. He could just pitch a tent in the backyard.
Yeah, there are no utilities at this time.
Okay, so he's not actually in the house. Is that what we're saying?
He could be.
I mean, he could be. He could have broken a window and replaced all the locks, and he could be living in the house, but he doesn't actually need any utilities to be a squatter in the house. He just has to be there.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, honestly, as far as utilities are concerned, if you can get mail at the house, they'll hook you up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in theory, he could be just living in the house and running.
But unless he can prove...
I think I need to go down and coach this guy.
It does look like a pretty nice house.
He's got to be able to prove residency.
Yeah.
You can't... Well, how do you prove residency other than the fact that you're there?
You get mail. The U.S. Post Office proves residency all the time. You list that as your address for a credit card, and you get your bills there, and you pay your bills from there, and all of a sudden you're a resident of there.
Yep, I guess that's what I'm trying to do. It's funny, man. It makes me want to go check out the California real estate laws and see if you can get away with something like that around here.
If anything, the squatters' laws in California are more lenient, I believe.
I don't know. Seems like laws are written for the benefit of lawyers, so we'll see. And we got a lot of those in California.
Yeah, there was another story this past week about a woman who had a $170,000 some odd dollar house that she owed back taxes on of $6.30, and the IRS foreclosed on her.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
This laws are crazy.
Yes.
All right, so I want to talk about some robots.
Robots are always cool.
Jeremy put up a really cool article. I watched the video. Some scientists have created, or engineers, I guess, have created a robotic arm that can catch things that are thrown in its direction. And basically they kind of modeled for the robot the various stages of reaching or grabbing or getting into position to catch something, and basically the robot learned, and now you can toss stuff at it and it will catch it. It's very odd to watch that.
Yeah, it was a cool video. The part about it that was cool to me was that they didn't actually code it to catch it; they taught it to catch.
Right.
And I don't understand the nuances of how you program robots. I'm not a robotic programmer person, but the fact that they could model behavior and have the robot learn from their behavior, that alone, aside from catching stuff, which was still pretty damn cool, teaching robots to do things and then to continue to improve on that and perfect that, that's just like scary.
Just from what I saw, if I were to guess, and I'm not an engineer of any, I don't really know much about how robotics work, but what it looked like they were doing is the hand itself, it had a thumb and 3 fingers on it, and kind of a very flat plate for its palm. And what it looked like they were teaching it to do was to meet the object with that flat piece of its palm, and just kind of go through various motions and how to catch it. and I don't know if it's a pressure plate or if it's touch sensitive, but when the object hit the palm, the fingers would close.
And it was also measuring trajectory.
Right. So there's a camera that's looking at the object
motion
coming toward it,
yeah.
and probably some sonar or distance sensing too. So
Right,
there's a
but
lot of computing going on there.
Right, but its end result, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but that's the way I caught it every time. Like when we catch things, sometimes we'll catch it with the palm and close it. Sometimes I'll catch something by the fingertips or catch it like this, like a basket catch or something, something like that. But what it really seemed to do was to track and try to get that palm in line with whatever was being thrown so that it could then close its fingers on it.
Yeah, that could be.
Which catching is catching. I mean, it's catching.
Yeah, it caught it. It learned the behavior. That's to me. That's the cool
part. The stuff that they can.
That's pretty cool. Maybe the Giants could get a few of those arms.
Right.
Giants are doing pretty good. They have like the best record in baseball right now.
Give them time.
I wanted to piggyback on that story. Something that was. Everybody all right?
Yeah. When Jeremy said that, I just about beer elbows right now. Sorry.
Jeremy kind of put as an aside that with all the advancements in robotics that we're coming up with, maybe it's time to discuss Asimov's 3 laws. And it was so funny that he mentioned that because I saw an article earlier today about robots being used in combat. Now, drones and mobile, remote-controlled devices are nothing new for the military. But the Office of Naval Research has just awarded a $7.5 million grant for a 5-year study to university researchers from Tufts, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, Brown, Yale, and Georgetown to explore how to build a sense of right and wrong moral consequence into autonomous robotic systems. Now, what they're basically going to try to do is try to design a set of morals that a robot can live by that they can then use in combat to make real-time decisions on its own, independent of human controllers. Which is just, I mean, when you talk about flashing forward into really futuristic stuff, that was pretty much it. That's like RoboCop, iRobot stuff that we're talking about.
So does that mean the robots will do all the dirty work that it knows humans don't want to do because humans think it's wrong?
That violates the laws of robotics. Sorry. What was that, Keith?
I was just agreeing. Actually, that's pretty much what robots are there to do, if we program them properly. I actually read an article a little while ago, and I don't know where it is anymore. I'll have to see if I can dig it up and get it to Jeremy for the show notes. But there was an article saying that the Asimov's laws actually aren't good for programming. There's too many loopholes in them that can't be programmed for, at least not where we are now. So, but I still got to think that it's a good starting point, to start working towards. But yeah, they were saying that as far as from a programmer's point of view, and maybe Jeremy can speak to this more as being one, that the Asimov's laws just aren't realistic to be able to code.
Yeah, we should, for those folks that are listening, just go down the 3 laws really quick and remind them if they haven't seen iRobot recently. Anybody have those? I just pulled them up, but Jeremy, do you know the 3 laws?
Don't hurt humans. That's one. Or don't by your actions do not allow humans to come to harm.
Right. A robot must obey the orders given to it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. And the 3rd law is a robot must protect its own existence as long as it doesn't conflict with the 2nd or the 1st law. Now, the U.S. military, in the story, it talks about the U.S. military, it prohibits lethal, fully autonomous robots. Yes, we have drones that can carry out lethal strikes, but those are always controlled by humans. So robots that their own impetus to do lethal action still is not a legal thing. But when you talk about robots being used, say, as medics in the field or as repair drones or something like that, where they have to make decisions as to what asset, say, is most worth saving or would be the most advantageous to save, that's where I think some of these moral guidelines or moral codes could come into play.
As long as the morals that they're using aren't morals that our politicians have, that's probably okay, because they don't have any. So
yeah,
it's
and
interesting.
it depends on what the goal is. Are they morals that are designed to protect the troops? Are they morals that are designed to protect humans in general? It's an interesting field of artificial intelligence, and the more robotic stuff there is, the more important this is going to be. I mean, if you look at the Google self-driving car, it has to make a lot of these decisions, and I don't know if you can call that intelligence, but it processes a huge amount of data to decide what actions it should take. So I think things are really moving in that direction, I think.
And it behooves us to say that when they're talking about a set of morals for robotic, we're not necessarily just talking about right from wrong, but a set of principles and metrics that guides what it decides to do.
Right. What is right and wrong according to the robot or
Right.
programmers.
And also, the right and wrong is going to be set by those programmers. And I mean, given that it's kind of a military thing, is a little scary because I mean, there's always differences of opinion between right and wrong. I mean, just look at what we've had over the last 12 years with the war on terror. I mean, there's a lot of people that think the whole Guantanamo Bay thing is very wrong, that we shouldn't be holding people without due process and just keeping them there indefinitely without charging them with anything. And there's other people that say, nope, that's perfectly okay. So, I don't know, the idea of programming morals with right and wrong is a little bit scary because right and wrong is truly an individual decision and not necessarily a collective decision.
And we're
it's not logic.
We're already in that kind of robotic purgatory right now of with our drone system, that we have drones that can carry out lethal strikes without, arresting an individual or without detaining someone, without questioning them.
Yeah.
Now these are controlled by humans.
Yeah, well, at that point, I don't believe they're a robot. They're just a tool of a human.
Yeah,
There's
drones
a
are
human,
just tools.
Yeah, it's a human making a decision. It's no different than pulling the trigger on a gun and then claiming that the gun made the decision to kill him. No, that's not the case.
But
No.
the concept of machines carrying out human decisions in a military fashion is something that we're starting to get into more and more.
Yeah,
But
they're
as
talking.
long
they're
as
not-
it's a human behind the machine, then it's just a tool. You can't
They're talking
confuse
about
that.
making these things.
If you confuse that, then it is the guns that are committing the murders and not the people.
Well, yeah, drones and artificial intelligence are two different things.
Yeah.
But the decision-making process that goes into which drone strike to make and which drone strike to not make, how you build that logic in is very subjective based on who's making those decisions. And that was kind of the point I was getting. If it's just a drone, yeah, whoever sends the fire command to shoot the missile out of the drone, that's just the drone making the action. But it's the process of how that decision to even pull the trigger was made, and that process is very subjective based on whoever is making that decision.
We've been for a long time. We've been confusing in the media remote control devices with robots, and they're not one and the same.
I'm not trying to confuse the two. What I'm saying is we're already getting to a point where we're using technology in a third-person context to carry out orders for things that were not even there. Now, you can say we've been doing that for decades with things like missiles and those types of things, but never in a kind of a live, literally peer-to-peer reviewing the destruction happening as it occurs. That's like the last 25 years or so that we're like literally guiding these things down chimneys. We're launching these things from drones. And I'm not equating that with robots. What I'm saying is that these sets of morals and guidelines that these pilots are using for their drones are a bit controversial to some.
I don't think it's any different than the same guidelines that the samurais used back in the day. I mean, the guidelines may be different, but it's still a person that's making the decision in the end of the day.
It's also a person, Keith,
a
that's
human.
swinging. It's a person that's swinging the sword.
Exactly. That's exactly my point.
And it's no different from morals from individual to individual. What's right to someone is
the sword is not to
forbidden
blame
to another.
for the object. The drone is not to blame. The missile is not to blame.
I'm not talking about blame. I'm not assigning blame.
No. The article is saying that programmers are now, or these universities are engaging in this activity of trying to come up with a system that actually makes the decisions that are currently made by humans. Mm-hmm. So they're taking the drone to the next step of the drone's just flying around and the drone just picks a target and shoots.
But that's very different than what's happening now. And Rob's trying to say we are already there. And
we're not already there.
I didn't say that. And in fact, the first thing that I said, Keith, was that we're kind of in a purgatory in between those two stages. That's what I'm saying.
Yep, we're almost there, and it's scary. That was my point.
That's my point.
Is whose morals do you use to make those decisions? So I don't know. Maybe I guess for me, maybe the military isn't the right people to be funding this research, but I don't know who else has that level of budget to just kind of throw around. But more humanitarian things, I guess, maybe like you said, the medic example of which person, you got 30 people laying there wounded, which one do you choose to save? That might be more of a decision to make based on, things, as opposed to which missile do you fire at some unnamed target.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic.
So I'm glad I'm not making those decisions and that I'm just drinking beer.
That's true.
Someday a robot will decide what beer you drink.
I was just thinking.
I'm glad Rob's not deciding what beer I drink.
Hey,
flavorless Mexican lager for all.
I sent you Bombshell Blonde. You liked it.
And you sent me this one, which I liked.
See?
So
Rob, I've got to say,
I chose those for you.
You have the right data input. Can you make it?
Your Texas beers have been right on. The first series were really good, and these are continuing the tradition.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you get the right data inputs, which what beers we like, and you pick the right beers to match those inputs. Maybe you should be our moral compass.
You have good beer morals.
Yes, your beer morals are excellent when choosing for others. It's just when you choose for yourself that we question.
Yes.
All right, so with that, we're going to move on to our Keith, as usual, has no pick.
I haven't even seen the doc yet. Do we have a doc?
Okay, Keith has to go last.
I have a pick ready to go, so I can go anytime.
Temporal thing that's behind everybody else.
Okay, Keith, go. You got something?
I do. I'm going to pick something, and this is not a blatant suck-up for a company that's actually carrying our show, but I did a little experiment back when we put the show on Stitcher, and because I was kind of running out of room on my iPhone, and one of the things taking up the room was all the downloaded podcasts I had using Downcast, which I still use on my iPad. That's a great app for podcasts catching. But I decided to get rid of that and just put Stitcher on it and see if I could live with just Stitcher on my phone. And I'm here to report after, about 2 months now, that I'm not going back. Stitcher is a great podcatcher kind of alternative that doesn't take up space because it only downloads the show when you start to listen to it, and then keeps it until it's done, and then it boots it. It's gone. It automatically takes care of that for you. So it's really nice. You start playing it. If you start playing it on Wi-Fi, it'll download the entire show in seconds, and audio podcasts only. But it'll download the entire show in seconds, and then and then you can go out in LTE land or even places where there is no signal of any kind and still listen to your show because it's cached for you. So it works really well. I haven't found a spot where it doesn't. I almost always start listening when I'm in the home or the office, and then I take my show on the road with me and do whatever I want to do. So it seems to work really good. But even when you do start it on LTE, it doesn't use enough bandwidth that I've noticed anything. And I have a capped plan, so I would hear about it if it were a problem. And I maintain about 15 shows on there that I listen to every week. So it's working out really well. So my pick is Stitcher, where you can also find the PNRShow.
Ooh, well, if
up
you can
there.
find the PNR show there.
Yeah.
It must be good.
So there you go. That's my pick is Stitcher mobile radio.
Cool.
I like Stitcher. I also use Podcruncher, and usually I just stream the podcasts that I like to listen to. But I also have Stitcher, and Stitcher, you're right, works great.
I will have to check that out.
Yeah, I'll try it. I've been using the Apple iPod application, which kind of does the same thing, I think.
I hate that.
Yeah,
application.
they're
hate
new
it.
since they broke it out of the regular audio app.
It's just
it's
weird
been
now.
terrible.
It's
and
so ponderous. It does not.
No, it's not my favorite at all.
No.
If
I
you,
also-
need, if you want a
I'll
regular
install Stitcher right now.
Yeah, if you want a regular catcher, Downcast would be my pick, and that's a great one. It supports like gesture based, so you can actually control it while the phone's in your pocket. You can just reach in there and do some gestures on the screen. You can control everything.
And if there
It
are
sounds
wanna
creepy,
do
but
that
it
and
works
play it
really
in your
well
pocket.
for pause and play and stuff like
Also,
that.
honestly,
So
Yeah,
that's
sorry, I was
out.
fast forwarding.
if you have some terrestrial radio that you like to listen to, the TuneIn radio app is very good.
The other thing Stitcher does that I do like too is it works sort of like a little CNN app. It gives you breaking news that'll pop up as an alert, so I can actually keep my head and know what's going on in the world, like the fact that there's a mine in Turkey that's got a whole 145 people trapped and or killed in it. That just happened. So I was looking at that. The only thing I don't like is they do insert their own ads in front of shows. So there'll be an ad sometimes when you're listening to the PNR show that we're not getting any credit for. Stitcher is. So, but they got to pay the bills too. So
Right.
it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, whatever.
At least they don't interrupt the show to do it. They do them at the beginning and the end. So it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Well, that's okay.
It's
Could
worth
be worse.
noting. It's worth noting too that Stitcher does do live radio as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
You can just search for stuff on there and it shows up. So podcasts, live radio, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Their library's pretty amazing. And apparently they have no moral compass when it comes to adding shows because they added our show without question too. So
There you go. I love lack
But
of
no standards. I mean, yes.
High
so you,
standards.
so you can
High
find
standards.
anything on Stitcher.
That's good to know.
My pick for this week is an Xbox game. Actually, it's for the PS4 as well as the Xbox One and PC, and it is Titanfall by Respawn. And Titanfall has been billed as the next big first-person shooter out there, but it has a slightly different focus on it. When you're in a first-person soldier mode, you're actually equipped with this kind of acrobatic suit that allows you to, what they call parkour or mantle off of buildings. Literally, you're doing like Matrix shit off of. Sorry, there's the explicit tag. Matrix crap off of buildings, jumping here and there, and running along the sides of cliffs and things like that. It's very, very cool. To add a 3D aspect to the whole first-person shooter vibe. But what also is the big thing with Titanfall is the presence of mechs. That being 25-foot tall robots that your soldier can actually climb into on the battlefield. Once you start as your first-person shooter, you have a countdown timer. It's usually set at 2 minutes before your Titan can be delivered. However, the more soldiers you kill on the other side, the quicker your Titan will arrive. They do 6-on-6 matches, but they also spray in on both sides AI grunts that you can take out for not as many points as the actual user soldiers before you get your Titan. And it's very, very cool. It's a lot of fun. I'm still kind of getting the hang of it. This is Keith and I have this annual thing where we each buy the same game as birthday presents to each other because our birthdays are only 5 days apart. So I celebrated a little bit early for Keith, so I'm enjoying his game right now. And
Our birthdays are in June.
I know.
They're a month away still.
I know. I'm going on vacation soon, so I might not be around. I'm prepping. The one, if there was a downside to this game, it is that there's not much of a campaign story. It's really about the multiplayer, and multiplayer is very, very cool. So I recommend Titanfall. Gary wants to talk about a flamethrower.
Yes, this is my pick. It's the Red Dragon.
Tell me about it.
400,000 BTU backpack propane vapor torch kit, which sounds like something for the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, I noticed they don't call it a flamethrower.
They didn't actually call it a flamethrower,
Vapor
but that's what it is.
torch.
Vapor torch. Come on, it's 400,000 BTUs. If you go to Amazon, you can pick one up there for just under $200.
I actually linked it on our website when you first started looking at it and showed it in the chat room. It's linked there, and if you buy it from our website, if you go to our website and click the link, we get credit for every flamethrower sold.
So do that.
So please, for the love of God, if you're going to buy a flamethrower, do it from PNRShow.
Associate us with your flamethrower, please.
Yeah. So the standard uses that are not part of the zombie apocalypse are for like burning weeds off and brushing your yard, thawing pipes, melting snow and ice.
Thawing pipes.
That's all.
This is a great idea in your basement for when your pipes freeze.
You guys have to watch the commercial for
4,000
this.
BTUs.
Yeah. My brother-in-law has one of these,
pipe.
and he said you got to be really careful not to start a fire, and that's when I knew I needed one. That's when I knew I needed one. But I think all of that is just pretense. It's all prep for the zombie apocalypse. You should get one. The backpack is a 10-pound propane tank, so it could be heavy depending on your size, but you know, it's still 10 pounds. You can get in condition to carry that pretty easily. So
you can train.
Yeah. Be prepared. Go get one. It's a small investment considering that your brains won't get eaten.
I'm watching, while you're talking, I'm watching the commercial for this, and it starts off with a guy spraying his lawn with traditional weed killer, and he's talking about how inconvenient it is and how unsafe, and it has his little baby sitting in a little stroller next to him. Why do that? It says unsafe when you can use the vapor torch, and it literally says safe, effective, and it's easy, but safe is at the top while he's walking along a fence shooting gouts of flame onto the ground.
Yeah. This is awesome.
The baby in the stroller is nowhere in sight.
Not for the rest of the commercial.
Yeah.
Only during the nasty chemicals, not during the 400 or 500 degree flames that are being spit out.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm a real man until I have one of these. So I'm hoping that my wife listens to the show and wants to get me one of these for Father's Day.
Am I wrong? But would anybody else be a little bit nervous with a propane tank on your back?
Hell no. That sounds like
No,
fun.
not at all.
No,
Okay.
Propane's really
Propane's
safe.
totally safe.
That's just me.
Yeah. Come on.
Be a lot better than gasoline. It's probably a lot safer than gasoline, even carrying it around in a gasoline can to fill up your lawnmower.
Yeah.
There needs to be a little qualifier on this commercial saying not advisable to use during a drought.
I think what we need to do is establish the beer mile while using the flamethrower. I mean, vapor torch. So, if you can do a 5-minute beer mile while carrying a 10-pound propane tank and killing weeds along the edge of the track, you are set.
Winner.
And that 10 pounds is going to get lighter as you use it. So.
Right. So the more propane you use, the lighter that backpack gets.
Yeah.
My backyard is full of weeds.
Yeah. A must-have. A must-have for every man in your life.
For every survivalist in your life, yes. All right, last but not
get a
least.
free AK-47.
Right. Last but not least, Jeremy wants to talk about an interview featuring at the Epic Brewing Company.
So my brother turned me on to this. Station KRCL 90.9 in Salt Lake is celebrating, or Park City maybe, they're celebrating American Craft Beer Week by interviewing local craft brewers. They interviewed yesterday. They interviewed Epic Brewing, and we've had some of Epic Brewing's beers that they refuse to acknowledge are theirs on the show. I don't think we've done any of their.
I don't think we've done any proper their Epic.
No, we need to remedy that. But it was a really neat interview. I was able to hear about half of it on the bus on the way home, and KRCL gave us a link to download the MP3 of the interview, and we will be posting that link to that on our show notes. So I encourage everybody to check out this interview. They're doing this all week with different craft brewers, and we will post them as they become available.
Cool.
Okay, well, as we close out the show, a couple of breaking news items. Not super breaking news, but were posted just within the last few hours. Apparently, the European Union has issued an ultimatum to Google saying that it must delete irrelevant links at the requests of individuals.
Irrelevant?
Yes.
Who decides what's irrelevant?
No one's going to be able to find our show in Europe.
It's for the individuals decide. Links that are deemed inadequate, irrelevant, or no longer relevant, which I guess probably means the same thing. It is unclear exactly how the ruling will be implemented, considering the sheer volume of online data and internet users.
So wait, so some French asshat stumbles across our show on a beer search and decides we're irrelevant and gets us taken off of the Googles?
We love you, France.
How did you assume that all French are asshats?
No, just some French asshat. There's got to be at least one.
Okay.
I guess a guy who looks up the Red Dragon Vapor Torch.
Yeah, that's right.
And,
it's totally relevant.
According to Europe, needs to be able to tell Google, hey, I don't want that appearing in my history. I don't want to see ads for that anymore. I guess that's what it is.
Oh, that's not so bad. That's changing on a personal level.
Wow.
That's not global.
Yeah.
But I don't care about the story anymore.
It's got rights. Well, you should look at it because I'm sure there's more to it than what I'm saying. But it's basically setting up what it's calling a battle between free speech and right to privacy. The other semi-breaking news. It hit the wire earlier today, but it wasn't confirmed. It looks like it's now been confirmed. Russia is going to ban the USA from using the space station.
Right.
I don't know how that's possible.
Well, we did leave it a little bit of a...
ours.
We did leave it a bit of a mess when we left after the last party.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, after that whole Make Your Tom video thing, they didn't want us up there anymore.
Yeah.
But there was so much vodka.
Russia is to deny the U.S. future use of the International Space Station beyond 2020 and will also bar its rocket engines from launching U.S. military satellites, which I wasn't aware that they did now. It's kind of scary. As it hits back at American sanctions imposed over the Ukraine crisis.
Oh, wait, no, in 2020?
2020.
The station's going to fall out of the damn sky long before 2020.
No,
Who cares?
Yeah, it's going to be up there for a while.
Yeah.
The U.S. is keen to keep the $100 billion. They want to keep it flying at least until 2024, 4 years beyond its original
so we can't go
target.
to the last 4 years?
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Basically, it's basically like your best friend telling you that he's not going to give you a ride to your girlfriend's house until you decide to pay for gas.
It's like your best friend telling you that he's not going to give you a ride to your girlfriend's house the last 4 weeks you're dating.
The space station will be way past its warranty by then. Nobody will care.
You a ride
Until then.
break up with your girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly. Come on. It's a
Because you
balls,
said
Russia.
something mean to its girlfriend.
It's not a real sanction.
It's not a real sanction because we could just build our own rockets if we wanted to. If we wanted to, that's the thing.
Well, we don't have
okay.
to build our own. We have SpaceX.
Yeah.
They're doing it for us and doing a damn fine job.
Virgin Galactic.
We'll find a contractor that's not Russian.
Yeah, it's not really not an issue.
Well,
Anyway, so something to keep our eye on for the next 6 years. Way to go, Russia. All right, next week we're going to continue on with our Texas beers. I think we're going to verge on to the St. Arnold's territory. We'll have a beer picked out by then. We've got 2 to choose from, and we'll do that. And that and more craziness on the next issue of the PNR Show. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob. That was an awesome intro. I mean, show. Sorry.
Wait, sorry, what?
I need to choose a book for my vacation. Does anybody have any ideas?
Not Moby Dick.
50 Shades of Grey?
No.
I actually have a bunch of suggestions for you, Rob, but I'll hit you up offline.
Dune. One of
Online.
the classics. Read Dune.
Goodbye! I tried reading Dune. I hated it.
Reading Dune is so much better than watching the movie.
That's not a